An abundance of broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage harvest this month have left me with an abundance of extra greens. We often eat just the tender parts of those crops, but there are all these leaves left over, and if you've wondered like me if you can use them, you absolutely can. And in today's video, I'm going to show you my favorite ways to use all the abundance of brassica leaves coming out of the garden this month. If we haven't met before, my name's Angela from Growing in the Garden, and I love to share garden inspiration and helpful tips so you can be successful in your own garden. There are a few different ways that I like to use up all of the brassica leaves coming out of my garden. The first one that is the easiest way to use them is my chickens. I'll pick off the outer leaves during the season and give them to the chickens. They're happy to eat as many of those leaves as I will give them. You can also make chips similar to making kale chips. Use them for coleslaw or salads. I add the leaves to smoothies. I will saute and use the small tender leaves like chard or spinach, and you can juice them as well. Some of those outer leaves can get pretty thick and they're a little bit harder to eat. My favorite way to use those outer leaves is to either dehydrate or freeze dry those leaves and make them into a powder. Here's how I do it. Once I've harvested the main crop, I collect all of the leaves. Don't harvest the leaves before you harvest the main crop because those leaves serve a purpose for that plant. The leaves are what is giving all of that energy to that main crop, that head of cauliflower or those broccoli florets or those broccoli side shoots. So don't harvest the leaves too soon. Leave them on the plant until you're ready to harvest the main crop. Once you've harvested that, collect all of those leaves. Here's how I like to prepare the leaves. I give all the leaves a rough chop, and then I soak them in a big tub of water to rinse them off. Lay everything flat to dry in a dishcloth, and then for years I processed all the leaves in a dehydrator. Now that I have a freeze dryer, I use my freeze dryer to process all of these leaves. Both processes work, so use what you have. If you save all the stems and process those together, and then process the leaves, it will cut down your drying time for the leaves. Process according to the freeze dryer directions. In my freeze dryer, I put them in and then push a button. It's pretty simple. Processing times may vary, but freeze drying can take between 12 to 18 hours if you leave the stems intact. Dehydrating will take about that long or a little bit longer. You can tell when the leaves and stems are done because they will be crispy and crumble easily. Next, I grind everything into a powder. I put them in my blender and I quickly grind the dried leaves into a powder. The volume really goes down once you grind them up. It makes storing them very simple. Then I store the powdered vegetables in an airtight jar. Now I have a jar full of green goodness that I can add to whatever I would like. Using it is simple. It can have a strong taste if you add a large amount, so practice adding it and see how much you like to add to various things. We add it to soup, to smoothies, to chili. It's endless what you can add this green powder to. This process works equally well with any type of green coming out of the garden. Spinach, kale, Swiss chard. Those are my favorite ways to use the abundance of green goodness coming out of my garden during the winter. Thank you so much for watching.